Good morning, welcome to Ben's Ramblings. Recipes, reviews, and ramblings. This morning, I'm making cinnamon rolls for the family. We're going to make the dough first, let it proof, then we'll put the rolls together and get them in the oven. The last part is that beautiful cream cheese frosting. Let's get started. We're going to start with 4 cups of all-purpose flour, half a cup of sugar, 1 package or 2 1/4 teaspoons of dry yeast, a teaspoon of salt, 2 eggs, 1/3 cup of margarine. I know margarine, I normally use butter for everything. This recipe calls for margarine. 1/3 cup of margarine and a cup of warm milk. Okay. To the warm milk, we're going to add the yeast and let it dissolve. Alright, we're going to want to let that sit for about 5 to 10 minutes and let the yeast activate. While that's happening, we'll start with the dry ingredients. 1 teaspoon of salt, half a cup of sugar, 1/3 cup of softened margarine. Okay, the yeast has been in the milk for about 5 minutes. It's all dissolved. Let's add it into our dry ingredients. And let's add our 2 eggs. Okay. All right, let's start incorporating it. Okay. At this point, we're going to turn the dough out onto the counter, which has been cleaned, and knead it. I'm going to add a little bit of bench flour. Okay. And we're just going to start kneading this. Incorporate all the flour rather, into the dough. Get some flour on our hands. You could obviously do this in a stand mixer or a bread machine on the knead cycle, but this is a very wet dough. Alright, you can see it's a nice elastic surface. And we're just going to put this back in the bowl. Cover it with a damp kitchen towel. And we're waiting for that to proof and rise about double in size. I'm going to stick it, I have a proofing setting on my oven. I'm going to stick it there. You just want to put it somewhere which is warm. The dough's in the oven on the proof setting. It's going to take about an hour to double in size. When it's done, we'll take it out, we'll roll it out, we'll prepare the filling, roll them up, and we'll get them ready to go in the oven to be cooked. The dough's been proofing in the oven for an hour. Let's take a look at it. The filling for the cinnamon buns is as follows. We're going to roll out the dough to about 1/4 inch thick. It should be about 16 by 20, 22, somewhere around there. We have a cup of packed brown sugar, 2.5 tablespoons of cinnamon. I'll be honest, that's the recipe. I love cinnamon. This is probably closer to 4.5 tablespoons. It basically did heaping tablespoons of cinnamon. 1/3 cup of margarine, softened, and 2 to 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Okay, let's turn the dough out onto the floured work surface. flour under here. Okay, I'm going to start just stretching it out. And then we're going to start rolling. I want to try to leave it as rectangular as possible. It's a very soft dough. If the dough is sticking to the rolling pin, just dust the rolling pin with flour. Alright, this is about the right size. We're just going to take our margarine and we're going to spread it across the surface. And I'll try to use an offset spatula here, but sometimes it's easier to just do this with your hands. Especially because this dough is so soft. You know what? I'm just going to spread this with my hands. The heat of your hand will help the margarine spread. You do want to get the margarine right along the edges. So the next step is to sprinkle the flour that I measured out over the surface. We just want to give it a dusting, and this is going to keep the filling from oozing out the bottom as they bake. So I'm going to put them into a fine mesh sieve, and I'm going to dust the surface. Okay. Next we're going to spread on the cinnamon. And next is the brown sugar, and I'm going to run that through that same sieve that we used for the flour. It's going to help break up the clumps of the brown sugar. Okay, and now we're going to roll these up. Start at the top here. You want to roll them as tight as possible. And there's our rolled up cinnamon rolls. And we're going to cut them into about 1 3/4 inch pieces. Okay, I just have a 9x13 baking pan. This one's greased with some pan baking spray. And I'm just gonna load these in. You want them touching. Okay, the cinnamon rolls are about to come out of the oven. Let's put the frosting together. We need 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, 8 tablespoons or 1 whole stick of margarine, 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 cup of cream cheese. We're just going to add everything into the bowl. And we're just going to whip it with the electric mixer. Start slow, and we're going to gradually bring up the speed as it starts to come together. We want to whip it till it's nice and light and fluffy. scrape down the sides of the bowl and we'll do it again. Just make sure we get everything incorporated. All right, that looks good. Here are our finished cinnamon rolls. Don't those look good? All right, let's frost one of the cinnamon buns. All right, let's see how it tastes. Oh, that center's still nice and gooey. The edges are just a little bit crispy. The cream cheese frosting is nice and sweet. What a great breakfast or dessert. Give it a thumbs up if you like the recipe. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more. And ring that bell.
Ding ding! And this morning we made cinnamon buns. So let's give it a try. Tastes good. Here's the cinnamon right here.
How's the frosting?
One last one. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. Bye.
Ding ding!
Bye. No. You ring ding ding, but I ring the bell myself.